Okay, so today we will continue with exercise 2. We will actually continue the one-point perspective that we started explaining last class, okay? So we will continue with one-point perspective, drawing objects with a little bit more detail, and I will explain more about the splitting of surfaces into segments that I started last class, but I explained just on the go. Okay, so today we will focus on that, because splitting of surfaces into segments in one-point perspective, when you draw objects, in today's homework, you have to apply it, you must. Okay, so we will explain a little bit more about it in detail. We will also cover two methods for splitting. Splitting for halves, quarters, and so on, and into thirds. The thirds is different than these. So we will explain the difference. We will show some examples like last class, just for you to learn more of objects drawn in one-point perspective. And we will, after that, explain the homework. Okay? So we have our horizon line. We have one vanishing point, because we are dealing with one-point perspective, okay, until now. And I will draw now, again, a simple object, and I will show you how you can use the splitting of the segments into this object to draw the details more accurately. Now, before that, let me just remind you what is splitting of surfaces mean. We have, for example, here I put you just some simple squares. Just simple squares, but it can be any shape. It can be rectangular, it can be any, okay? But with a square, so we have, for example, a square or a rectangle, it really doesn't matter, okay? And if I want to find half of it, where is the half located? Now this is not in perspective, okay? Not in perspective, just to explain the idea. Later we can put these into perspective and use the same method. So, you find the diagonals, this is the half. The half of this what? Again, diagonal here, okay? Do you see the red lines, diagonals? So this is here the center point. Center point, center point. So, if I put now, this is splitting. Now I split this surface, the square surface, into two segments, okay? Now, if I want to split this segment again into two, I will do the same thing. Okay? So this surface here, you see this surface? I split it again. Where is the center point? Here. Now, I split it again into another two. And this surface, the same thing. I can again put a diagonal here. Here is the center point. Put a line through. Now I have, this is half, okay, and this is quarter, 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 quarter. And you can split again and again and again and find smaller and smaller details. With this here, the same thing, okay? It doesn't matter that it's long, okay? Any surface, you can split in this method, okay? So here we have half, here we have into 4 parts, then you can split into 8s and so on. Now what about if you want to split it in 3. For example, we have a square, okay? And I want to split this square not into half, but into 3 parts, okay? You cannot do it with this method that I just explained. Finding the diagonals, the center point, you cannot do it. So, we have to do it this way. From one of the sides, you divide into 3. Do you see how I divide it here? 1, 2, 3. Equal parts, 1, 2, 3 equal parts, okay? Then we will take lines from here, line from here, line, line. And I will put a diagonal from here or from here, it's the same thing, okay? And the points that will intersect, now I have 1, 2, 3. So, let's see now how all of this that we explained will apply in a real drawing, okay? So we will draw very simple furniture pieces. Let me see here, okay. in 1 point. So in 1 point perspective, we start how? With the face. So for example, if I want to draw this classroom, I have to start with the face of it. It doesn't have to be square, it can be elongated, rectangular, but I have to start with the face. I cannot start with a corner, for example, okay? Like to draw this classroom from here. This edge, do you see this edge? I cannot in 1 point perspective. So we have to start with the face. Anything we draw, we start with the face. So let me draw here a face of an object. So, face of an object. Now we will take from each of the corners to the vanishing point. We'll take from each of the corners towards the vanishing point. Has to go towards the vanishing point, ideally, okay? We're drawing. Now, okay. Now, because this is a freehand drawing, what I mean is we don't have measurements. We don't know how much is this, how much is this. We are just dealing with the shape of the object in general and the proportions of it, the proportions. So we use this method to get the proportions right. So, after I draw the object, so this one go to the vanishing point, this to the vanishing point here. So I decide the length of it, okay? I decide visually the length of it, how much I want to do it. And from this point also to the vanishing point here, okay? This go down. Very simple object, okay? Now, I want to, this object is not finished. I want to split this surface. Do you see this surface? We want to split it in half. Because, let's say this is a furniture piece, and here we have two doors we want to, open. So we want to split this surface in half. So the same method we applied there, we will apply here. So what is the first step? I don't know the measurements. I just want it in half correctly. Now I can guess. Okay, I can put the line here and say this is it if I'm drawing a fast sketch. But if you don't have the feel of proportions, it is better to use this method, so at least you get it correct, okay? Proportionally. So I will put here a line from corner to corner, and from here a line. So these two diagonals, they tell me here is the middle. Okay, so here is the middle, here we will split it. Okay. Now remember, in perspective, whatever perspective, 1, 2 point, whatever you're using, when you draw an object, always this part that is closer to you will be bigger than the second part. Okay, so this one will be smaller, this bigger. Always just keep it in mind. But to avoid mistake, if you split the surface, it will tell you exactly. Okay, here is the center, here I will put the line. Okay, great. Now, if I want to now divide again, like we have here two doors, but I want to put here other parts of the furniture. So I can, for example, divide this surface into two, okay, or three, whatever. It depends on how much space I want to leave here. So, this one go to the vanishing point. Now, I want this surface and this surface again to divide into two. Then I can draw diagonal here, diagonal here. Here is the part, diagonal here, diagonal here. Here is the part. So, This could be other, part of the furniture. So you can take any surface. This is a surface, this is surface, this is surface, 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 and subdivide it, and draw more and more details to it. So this is very simple, in simple terms. Now, let us see, to draw another object, but we will divide it into three. So something into three parts, not into quarters, because this is when we have diagonal here, we always divide in halves, in quarters, in eighths, and so on. But in thirds, how do we do that? So, let's say, for example, we have a very simple object here. And I will take this to the vanishing point, each corner. To the vanishing point. I will decide the length because it's free for now. For example, let's end it here somewhere. Okay. These, of course, will be parallel if the object is this shape. Okay, now, this here, surface, do you see this surface? I want to divide into three parts. It is like a wardrobe with three doors, okay? How do we start that? We said that from one of the edges, you need to divide, the one surface, you need to divide into three equal parts, okay? So, 1, 2, so this is 1, 2, 3, equal parts. Now from here, we will take lines to the vanishing point. Going to the vanishing point, to the vanishing point. And then what did we say we do? We put a line through, one line, okay? Through, and see where it will intersect these two lines. Okay? Now, it intersects this line here and this line here, okay? Now we draw the divisions. Okay? So now we divided this surface into three parts. Okay? It's very important for this method to start here, to divide into three, and then take to the vanishing point, and then one diagonal show you the intersection. Okay? This is when you have thirds. When you have quarters, halves, okay, you can just use the two diagonals and subdivide like we explained the first one. Okay, another drawing. Okay, so let's draw another one, very easy, very simple. Okay. So we will start with the surface again. And we will take these corners to the vanishing point. Now let's say I don't really know what I will draw exactly. Okay, so I'm starting with something very simple, and I'm taking this to the vanishing point. Because when you're sketching in design, sometimes you don't know what you will draw. Okay, so you're just trying out things. Okay, let's start with this and take it, for example, to the vanishing point, decide its length, okay, where it should end. And then we decide what else to do with it, okay? Now, I need to put some detail in this area, but I need to know the third of it. Like, for example, 1, 2, 3. I need to put here in the middle something. So we need to have to divide the surface into three. So we will divide this into three parts, equal parts, 1, 2, 3. Take this to the vanishing point, from here and from here. Then put one line through, use this color, one diagonal through. See where it will intersect these two lines. So it intersects in this part somewhere and in this part. And here we will put the division. The divisions. Now, okay, I divided this surface here the way I want it, but I need here to know where is this part. Very easy. Once you have this identified here, you just take the line here and a line from here, and it will show you where it's located here. Okay? Now, you can put this area up, for example, here, if there is a detail you want to draw. I will put it some thickness also here. Okay, this is the surface. From here to the vanishing point. From here to the vanishing point. This is here parallel to this line. Okay, now you can draw details. Okay, adding details to the object by finding, as I said, center points, quarters, thirds, whatever. Then you can take from here up and find other objects and add objects. If you like the design, you like it. If you don't like it, you delete, you draw another one. You see very, very simple things here, but important to understand how to apply this method into this kind of drawing in one-point perspective. Now, in the example sheets, you can see furniture pieces, simple objects, okay? It doesn't have to be furniture, but I want you to try to stick with whatever you're drawing, to stick with straight lines. I don't want to see right now anyone drawing curves or, you know, parts of a circle, no. Later, this, okay? Now only straight lines. So for example, furniture that have, okay, as you can see, in one-point perspective and using straight lines. And there is obviously here divisions that you need to do correctly and so on, okay? Now we have other examples here also that I put you. Let me see. Here there is other furniture pieces in one-point perspective, very simple ones. Here I just put you also a room. If you want to draw a room, for example, you again start with the face and then everything goes into one-point perspective. The same method. I'm putting you here extra examples so that you can see where one-point perspective can be applied in real life, okay? So it's not only for drawing objects, like this is, for example, okay, this is something similar to what we just did on the board. Here is a chair, okay, in one-point perspective. What else do we have here? Here is a method of drawing a very simple table in one-point perspective. How you start with a cube. Everything starts with the basic object. So a cube, then you start finding the details, more details, more details. Here also, it starts with a cube, then you find the backrest, and so on. Everything you draw starts with a simple object, either a cube in perspective, or a cuboid, which is a rectangular form in perspective, and then you start adding more and more details. You never start with details. You always start with the main cube or cuboid object in perspective, whatever you draw. Here, more examples of one-point perspective use. Kitchen, okay, drawn in one point. Another room in one point. As you can see, it always starts with a face. Like you're watching the object in parallel way. You cannot draw it from an edge, okay? This is later we will talk about it, when we talk about two-point perspective. Here is other examples, okay, the same thing. So, uses of one-point perspective in real life. Here you have something also interesting, okay? A city. You can also draw it in one-point perspective. The buildings, the same way. The buildings are what, actually? Cubes, cuboids, okay, just long, objects. Everything from all the corners go to one point. Nothing difficult. Here is a city from the top drawn. All of these buildings again go to one-point perspective. So you can draw a lot of things with one-point perspective. And here I just put you these grids, to introduce you to the word grid, because whatever type of perspective you use, or there's always a grid behind it. So 1-point perspective has this kind of grid. It can be any shape, any size, okay, but there's always 1 point, and all the lines go towards this point, okay? So sometimes people, when they draw like complicated objects, they first draw the grid, and then they add the details inside. Like, for example, imagine you have this room and this grid, and you can start adding objects here and there, and it's more easy to, if it's a sketch, I mean, okay? It's more easy to identify the locations you want to place. Now, later when we talk about the accurate methods, you will have measurements and a lot more details. But when you draw a fast sketch just to understand an idea, you don't have measurements, and the grids can help you in this. Just the space to be divided into certain parts, so you can more easily identify where you want to put the objects. Now, this is extra information, not directly related to your what you need to do for your homework, but it's extra things just to see, okay? Now, what is the homework to do for today? Of course, you have to have your A3 paper, A3 Fabriano paper, with border 2 by 2 centimeter. Be very careful, those of you who did not come last class, or the first time, okay? Because this is our third class in reality, okay? So this is 2 centimeter, this is 2 centimeter. If you don't put me a border, or if you put me 1.5 centimeter, 1.8, 1 centimeter, I consider it wrong. So there will be minus points. If this sheet is not A3, also, I explained before, it will be a problem. Anyone drawing on A3 plus, okay, every sheet I will remove for you points. Every sheet. Like it can cost you a lot of marks, okay? I said A3, the A3 was what? Exactly 2 A4s. So when you put 2 A4s together, this is A3. Anything bigger than this, not allowed in this class for now. Yes?
I looked for it. They told me that Fabriano doesn't make A3 only. They only make A3 plus.
Then you cut it.
I cut it.
Yes. If you don't find, they sell, but if you don't find, you cut it. You cut it perfectly, okay? There is places you can go and they will cut it for you perfectly into the size you want. Great. So you need to draw 3 sheets. So this sheet times 3. Inside each sheet, so 3 sheets, okay? Inside of each, 3 objects. 3 objects, different objects, in 1-point perspective, showing me how you use the division of surfaces into segments. So, like how did I draw 3 objects here? You will have 3 sheets with inside 3 objects, so 9 objects, different ones you will draw. Now, this is extremely simple, which is okay, but if you want to add a little bit more detail, it's better. Okay, now you can have 1 sheet that's very simple objects, then you can start adding a little bit more detail using the technique that we explained. If you do that, I will consider that as well. So if you have 3 sheets with extremely simple objects, okay, if they're correctly drawn, clean lines, everything is fine, you will get a good mark, but you will not get an excellent score. But if you try a little bit to challenge yourself, put a little bit extra according to the rules that we explained, it will be better for you. So you have 3 sheets, you can leave the first one simple and then try to a little bit complicated, a little bit, but still with straight lines only, okay? Objects drawn with straight lines. This is important. So, any questions about this? Something not clear? Because now we will continue the rest of the class drawing in class, okay? Either you will continue last class homeworks or you will start with this one. Okay? Now the objects from where? You can either think about them from your mind or you can look at some object And you don't have to draw it exactly. Like if I look at this table and I want to draw, I don't have to draw it exact. I can modify it just as a guideline, or this table, or this object, or whatever, okay? You can look at something, for example, look at this or at this, and try to modify it in your drawing when you draw. Or think something from your mind, just to experiment. Okay, so this is it for today.